It was a cold morning. I had just gotten a promotion at my job working at the Pentagon. It was my first day in my new position. My job was to oversee digital concerns in the United States. Our department was desolate, as we hadn't seen a significant cyber attack for half a decade. We only had around 6 or 7 people on our department total, and 5 of them were out on leave. It was just me and my coworker today. Nothing was out of the ordinary. I couldn't see anything very clearly, as I had broken my glasses last night, which in hindsight, it was a poor decision to go to work. It turned out to be a blessing. My coworker, Albino, seemed to be a little off today, but I didn't ask him about it. Something was clearly on his mind. Maybe he had trouble at home or something. It wasn't any of my business. Things ran usually today, until around 4 o'clock hit. Albino and I were getting ready to shut down our computers and head home for the day. But before we can turn them off, Albino got a ping from his computer in his email. The email was vague. The sender was using a barcode type email address, so we couldn't decipher who it was from. There was no text in the email, just a small zip file with no icon. Albino and I looked at each other with confusion. We almost ignored it and let it be a problem for tomorrow, but Albino was hung up on what it could be. We were still on the clock, so we decided to open the zip file. Inside the file, there is a JPEG image that we couldn't open because of its format, so we decided to use the 140-inch surveillance TV in our facility. I couldn't make out what it was exactly. All I saw was a blurry picture with a large white ring surrounding a large brown sphere. I turned to Albino to ask him what it was, but he was just staring at the image in a trance-like state. "What is it, Albino?" I asked him. His mouth was agape. A dying wheeze escaped his lips, and he couldn't recollect himself. What I remember so vividly is how he rolled over on the floor like he was on fire, laughing himself to tears. Other people in the facility looked out into the halls to see what was going on. I tried to calm Albino down, but nothing I did was working. He couldn't get a breath in due to his laughter. He was literally laughing himself to death. Pentagon security was called in to resolve the issue, and they just shot him down like he was a dog. Facility workers trampled over Albino's bleeding corpse to see what was going on in our department. I guess they thought there must have been a chemical leak or something. I stood out in the hall with what was left of Albino. I looked through the glass window to see everyone in hysterics, throwing themselves onto each other in pure glee. Whatever was in that image was making them laugh like maniacs. I overheard one of the laughing scientists in the room from the hallway. He could barely murmur a word because of his giggles. He said that the image was a toilet full of a giant shit. They were laughing over a giant shit in a toilet. What was left of security rushed in from the halls and fragged the room out. I warned them not to go in there, but they didn't listen to me. I don't know what happened to them, but I heard a flurry of gunshots and explosions on my way out of the hall. The TV was on in the hallway. I snatched the remote from an employee and flipped to the news channel. The news person had a nervous look on his face. He was sweating bullets and covering his eyes. "Good afternoon, people of America. We've been flooded by reports of a supernatural cyber attack in which a massive toilet bowl of shit is making people laugh themselves to death." During the news guy's speech, the channel was suddenly hijacked with what seems to be the shit again. I ran back into the break room, the only place where there weren't any TVs allowed due to corporate policy. I found a group of employees there and explained what was happening to them. One of them laughed at me and called me crazy. He stormed out of the room and was immediately gunned down by security. There was an old crank-up radio in the break room for decoration. We decided to flip it on to see if anybody out there was looking for a solution. We tuned it to the Secret Service channel, where they explained the situation. The picture of the shit in the toilet had some type of supernatural force to it, and they didn't know how to stop it. The FBI had already blacklisted the image from showing in schools and hospitals, but they didn't know how much longer society could last. The estimation infected rate in the United States was 250 million. We were the last hope for survival, and we needed to put an end to this. We rushed out of the building and got into one of the armored trucks in the parking lot. As we were running, I got one last look at Albino. His cold corpse was looking back at me with an ear-to-ear grin on his face. We hit the road on the way to the FBI headquarters. The streets were riddled with people laughing their heads off. Traffic was congested everywhere. On the way out of the Pentagon, we heard the building explode into smithereens. We knew we couldn't do anything about it, so we kept driving. While we were weaving through abandoned cars and traffic, we saw a large crowd of people gathered under an electric billboard, laughing their heads off. We couldn't understand why they were all so close to each other, as the billboard was just a McDonald's advertisement. As we were all looking at the billboard, it suddenly flipped to something we didn't expect. The shit. The driver caught a glimpse of it and immediately broke down. He rocked back and forth in his chair like a patient in a straitjacket. The female passenger tried to hold his arms down, but he flailed his arms backward and sucker punched her in the face, rendering her incapacitated. It was just me and the other two in the back now. The driver suddenly floored it, weaving through traffic like a maniac. We must have been going at least 200 miles per hour. Suddenly, a Tyler the Creator song started to play on the radio, which made the driver lose his mind. He lost control of the vehicle and slammed us into the FBI headquarters. Thankfully, I was the only person wearing a seatbelt and was able to get out of the car before it exploded. Everyone else was dead. I limped into the FBI building to see if anybody had found a cure. Once I reached the top floor, I was greeted by a masked man. He said he was working on a cure and needed my assistance to help spread it around the internet, a sort of counter shit to offset the effects of the shitbowl image. He showed me his craft. It was an image of piss in a toilet. I had no reaction to the image, so it must have been legit. We figured the best way to send the cure to people was to project it onto every device with Wi-Fi. It was tedious, but I needed to do this for albino. We climbed to the satellite on top of the 75-floor FBI skyscraper and prepared to send the cure.
Thank you for helping with this,
the masked man said. No problem. Anything to put an end to this madness. Just before we were about to project it, I heard the masked man yell in agony. He was stabbed in the chest. His cold body fell onto the floor without a word, revealing the man behind him. Dr. Shitters, an old co-worker of mine who was fired after the last cyber attack. It was you who did this, Shitters, wasn't it? I'm not letting anything stand between me and saving America. I lunged at him and delivered a fast blow to his abdomen. He threw me off of him and started punching me relentlessly. Dr. Shitters was tall and muscular, his long white curly mustache draped into my eyes. It wasn't easy to take him down. My vision started to fade. Rain poured down on us as lightning illuminated the dying light. I wasn't going to let Shitters win.
Seems like your plan has failed, hasn't it?
He taunted.
Once you're gone, nobody will be able to stop me from my plan to dominate America.
I had one last trick up my sleeve. I pulled my phone from my pocket and flashed the image of the shit into his eyes like a beacon. It was a last-ditch effort to save mine and everyone else's life. He broke down in hysterics. Dr. Shitter stripped himself naked and laughed himself to death in the cold rain. I kicked him off the skyscraper to ensure there was no half measures. I inserted the USB into the satellite and projected the counter image into every screen in the western frontier. From that point on, America changed. There were about 75 million casualties because of the Shitbowl of Laughter, and I swore for it never to happen again.